This is the video that is going to get all the pro AI tech bros coming to hate watch me. Hello friends, welcome or welcome back. This week I am basically doing a bit of an open letter. I am going to be talking about AI. AI is killing my job. In fact, it's killing my job in three ways. Three different approaches to killing my job. The first is, I think, the more obvious one, and that is how AI is affecting me as a teacher and somebody who grades a lot of papers. The second is going to be around working with digital resources and particularly disability access to those resources, which is kind of crucial for me and crucial for anyone who is a disabled researcher who uses digital work. And the last is kind of going to be a short section on pseudoarchaeology and the impact that AI seems to be having on the creation of material around pseudoarchaeology, which is also kind of an issue for me at the moment. Now, if you're new to me, I am a UK academic researcher, postdoctoral type person. I work on archaeology and anthropology in the ancient world, and I'm also a teacher. So I am an adjunct professor, that's what we would call them if I was based in the States. Over here in the UK, it's just graduate teaching assistant, which is a terrible phrase for it. Now, I have two teaching careers across two academic disciplines. I have a PhD that I got in 2006 and I taught between 2001 and 2004. Then I went out into the world, I came back and I did a second PhD. I taught again in 2018 and then I started teaching the courses that I teach now in 2001. So for one of those courses, I'm coming into my fifth year, and for the other courses, this is, I think, my third year. I have about sort of 4 courses this year across 4 months, and then I have another 2 courses in the second semester. I am right now coming into the most marking heavy time of the year. I have just finished marking a block of very short pieces of work. Then I start marking probably this week or next week. The marking starts in earnest. So I will get about 300 plus papers on the main courses across 3-4 months. So November, December and January, I will be marking 3 to 4 papers a day, about across like 2 to 3 hours, with the addition of an extra course because they have made adjustments to my contracts. I'm going to make less money and I desperately need the money to survive the summer because I'm not paid in the summer. I will be doing additional marking this semester. I don't know what that is going to look like yet or how I'm going to do it. Some of it is very short and some of it is longer. To give you a bit of background on how it works, I get paid for the time that I'm teaching. I get paid an hour or so of preparation time per week, and then I get paid sort of an hour, 2 hours to do administrative stuff. So that is emailing with students. When it comes to marking, I'm paid half an hour for each 1,000 to 1,500 word essay, and then a full hour for a 3,000 word essay. Students normally submit 1 to 2 pieces of 1,000 words, and some of them will produce a 3,000 word research project. It is pretty hardcore. It's going to be slightly less hardcore. I don't know if I'm actually going to feel it this year, but I kind of hope that I do. It's going to be a rough year. I am currently trying to, I'm currently trying to kind of gear myself up for that. This year is particularly rough. Way back in, I think, March, Brian Merchant, who is an author and AI critic, launched AI Killed My Job, and this is really my open letter to him. I was initially going to submit it privately, but I decided that it might be worth putting this out on my YouTube channel because it feeds into conversations about the broader problems with academia that I discussed in my video on catabasis, which hopefully I will link here somewhere. And then my other work on disability, particularly because it does affect that. And there is a conversation to be had about disability and AI. And I don't know that I'm going to do that in any depth in this essay, in this piece, but certainly I'm going to discuss the impact of being a disabled researcher, an autistic researcher who needs to be able to access resources from home, and the impact that AI has been having on that. So we're going to go there a little bit too. I want to start by talking really about assignments and the role that they play. Jared Henderson has done a couple of good videos discussing the impact of AI and chatbots and the way that they are affecting the way that we do academia. And one thing that he has pointed out is that it's not as though AI has created a problem that didn't already exist. The structure of the way that the university system and higher education works at the moment is extraordinarily broken, and it is absolutely straining in different ways in different countries. I can speak more to the UK, a little bit to the US, because that's the most obvious one. Obviously, I can't see what is going on in SWANA countries and and China and places like that in very detail. But obviously these impacts are global because these resources are to some degree available globally. When it comes to academia, we have a multitude of problems. We have the increasing pressure on students to produce work while they are also coping with not having enough money to live in a cost of living crisis. The fact that they aren't being taught vital skills as part of their standard teaching, they actually have to go and find those resources for themselves and learn them. That has been an increasing problem, which I'm going to come back to. And then there is the pressure. They're very often doing jobs. And I understand, if you're a student of mine, I understand that you may well be working full time in order to support yourself, and on top of having a student loan, that it's just not enough. You may well be living in a city that is not the same one as your university, for example. So those are all really difficult problems. And as Jared Henderson has pointed out, you also have the problem for academics that we are put under increasing pressure to work extreme hours. I had a discussion with an academic who told me she's working on 3 or 4 different major academic projects right now, which she has to in order to maintain her position as a salaried staff member. And then she only answers emails in the evening, and that is going way over her scheduled number of hours in the day. And it is absolutely one of the most destructive systems right now. You must publish so fast all the time. It can take a really long time for your papers to get through peer review. I had my very first paper took a year to get through peer review to major journal. You was meant to have high impact journals. Those journals take longer. You are racing against people who have all of the advantage in terms of time, space, support, and that is absolutely crippling the system. On top of that, university systems are now very much dependent on international students, another thing that I am going to have to come back to. Now, if I seem really tired, I am recovering from, I think, suspected COVID, as well as now having a cold. And so that's why I sound a little bit gravelly today. And also, this is my second attempt at recording this because the first recording did not work out. So I am not having the best day. As I face the oncoming onslaught of papers, I thought I would start with giving you a bit of background on what that is like and what we do assignments and assessments for, because I think this plays into the discussion about chatbots. And I'm sort of calling them chatbots. I don't like the term AI because it is a marketing term and it's not an intelligent machine. I think we all know that it isn't. It is just reproducing words that it expects to be there at the time, or it is reproducing images that it expects to be there. ChatGPT has not come to class, and my goodness, it shows. Let's start with when I first entered academia and I started teaching. I taught a class which treated first year students as not really knowing how to do essays. So I was teaching geography, but we assumed no knowledge of writing at an academic level. What we would do is we would actually take students to the university library and we put them in front of a terminal. And this is back in the really old days. So terminal with a black screen and maybe green flashing text and a cursor, and you put a search term in. We would do all of that. We'd literally take them to the library and then we'd walk them up to the place where the book was. We'd show them how to search for books. We'd show them how to search for journals. My favourite place in the university was Current Serials. It was an amazing place. You could lift up a thing and you could get all the latest journals. That was super exciting for me. This is a keen young undergraduate student. My future as a perpetual postgrad and postdoctoral researcher was very obvious from the get-go. And then, so anyway, what we would do, I will not get distracted. What we would do is we'd take them into the library, and after we'd done that, we would give them a guide where they got one-to-one time with us as academics, and they would do their essay, their first essay. They could handwrite their first essay, and they would submit it to me, and I would go through it and read it, and I would give them feedback and give them, this is specifically what you need to do and what you need to do next. This meant that we got to pick up where they weren't able to reference, where they were struggling, if they had issues with writing itself, if they were struggling with any sort of chronic conditions that might affect their ability to complete the task on time, because they had that one-to-one time and they got to know me, they got to speak to somebody, and I got to see their work long before it got assessed. It also enabled me to pick up some things that first years do a lot of, which is relying on their A-level notes, relying on lecture notes, relying on Wikipedia, and relying on Google search, because don't think Google search existed at the time. Anyway, this gave me an opportunity to kind of go through and mark their work, and then they would send in their final assessment. There were occasionally students who did not take advantage of that, and my goodness, did they pay the price for that. This is not something we do with students anymore, and I think it is a real shame. They do tend to be expected to go to the library, which will do special sessions on how to write essays well, that will give them some resources. But students who are in STEM, who are experimenting with taking an optional humanities module, for example, which is what I teach, they very often don't have access or time to do those because those workshops are held when they're in labs. We have tried to do special sessions in seminar that allow them to go through the process of learning to write something. We will get them to do small writing exercises. I try to see their work in class because I am no longer paid for any time outside of that. I don't have office hours. Anything that anyone sends me is generally unpaid. And if I actually look at it, it is very stressful and very difficult because I want to be able to give my students the best possible experience. The best part of teaching as an academic is being able to do that with your students. It's the process of getting a student to understand, to get interested in something, to explore something. I'm very lucky in what I teach to some degree because the courses that I teach a course on science fiction, I teach a course on the history of pandemics and epidemics, and I teach a course on mental illness in society, and I'm going to be teaching digital society and sustainability, and also a general introduction to science and its interaction with the humanities and society, which is a first year course. All of these courses, we broadly spend a bit of time working on, how do you write, how do you create a coherent argument. I point them in the direction of really important books, and I try to help them as much as I can by looking over their shoulder in class and helping them to kind of grasp the essentials. If I pick out something where I realize they're not referencing correctly, then I can do that. All of that is intensely stressful, especially as an autistic person, because I rely on my ability to mask in order to be able to teach well, and that is becoming increasingly difficult because I have to take on more work in order to earn the same amount of money and survive in the summer. So there's that impact as well. It's incredibly difficult to grade papers. this is something that whenever I say this to students, that the most difficult part of teaching is the grading, is the marking papers. They're always kind of stunned that that should be the case. It is very difficult. Every paper is unique. And I say that as somebody who will get 30 very similar discussions of Frankenstein per year, or 30 discussions of Blade Runner. We tend to get trends across courses. Everyone will write about one particular thing, and I will see the same things come up each time, but they will come up in different ways each time. As long as it's an actual student writing it, I will see the same facts and materials, but they're going to be packaged very differently. And I'm also aware that marking and grading papers is an act of communication. They are communicating their ideas to me as students who are trying to learn, and I am feeding back to them. And we're doing this via this piece of work that they have submitted and that they've done research on. I hope that they haven't just written it at 3 a.m. at the last minute. We will, obviously, this is where ChatGPT comes in. It is incredibly difficult to do that well, because I am constantly aware that students either don't care, or they care too much and send me lots of emails panicking about assessments. I worry about them all the time because they're so anxious, and I want them to do well. When I get a student who has done really well, I don't know them because they're anonymized. Every paper that comes through that does really well and argues well, I want to just spray confetti over them. I want to give them a bottle of champagne. I want to buy them some chocolate. It's just delightful when I see students do well. I'm so proud of them. I am super proud of all of the students who show up and they try so hard, because they're doing this up against literally everything when they feel like they have no future. And when we talk about that kind of stuff, which does come up in class, they are struggling against that all of the time. I try to make an effort to make my feedback positive, encouraging, but also help them so that the next piece of work they do is really good. The people who create ChatGPT, these bots, think in terms of the end product being the only thing, and creating that end product as fast as possible with as little effort on the part of the creator as being the most important thing. For me, the effort is the important thing. The effort, the work that goes into it, the confusing, muddled, often desperate and difficult and painful journey that you have to go through in order to create a really good piece of work. That is what I am interested in. It's that what I'm marking should be the outcome of all of that effort and work. And it's about learning how to do that. Now, I will point to the Moomin House here because when I started doing miniatures, I had never done anything like this before. It was my first experience and I was very slow. I am very slow working on it. You can see it's been in this state for a really long time. It's still not finished. It takes me ages to figure things out. That is an essential part of the process of creativity. There have been arguments that come up around, the soul, it's missing its humanity. And I think we need to be absolutely clear that it is the hard work and effort and the thinking things through, the experimentation, the confusion, the does this work, does this not work, how do I make this work? That learning process is what we are looking at, really. This is the critical part that is missing from AI. When you use a chatbot, I'm going to use a running analogy here. I'm a runner. Now, everyone wants to use marathon analogies for writing, which is really bizarre. When you are actually a runner, you need to know how actual running a marathon actually works. So I run ultras. I'm training for my first ultra. Using ChatGPT is a little like getting somebody else to sign up for a race and do literally all of the work of training, of preparing, of figuring out which shoes are the right shoes to wear, how you manage the different types of weather, what sort of training protocols are best for you, what kind of fueling you need to use, all of that kind of experimentation with, oh my God, this doesn't work for my stomach, that does work for my stomach, I can wear these shoes but not those shoes. Do I go for super shoes? Do I investigate which pair of super shoes are best for me? Do I abandon super shoes altogether? Do I wish to run in the mud? All of those issues, and that's kind of compounded and goes extra if, say, the thing you're signing up for is the Western States 100. And dream come true for me if I was ever able to do that. But all of that work into that, and then someone else even runs the race for you, and then you just go and get the medal and the t-shirt and say, oh yeah, this is me. That's where we're at with ChatGPT. How does this show up for marking papers? Well, that's changing every year. This creates a complicated problem for those of us who are grading papers every year, because the chatbots change and there has been an increasing push towards making them look more and more like their academic tools. Now, I will be clear, this is my personal opinion. Quite honestly, I think all of the guys at the very top who own these companies are salesmen, first and foremost. They are interested in making a lot of money. They are not interested in human creativity. They are not even interested in society. They would scorch the earth if it made them a buck, to use a Hitchhiker's Guide reference. They would feed their grandmother to the bug blatterbeast of Trull if they thought it would make them some money. So quite frankly, they are uninterested in whether it actually is effective and useful, as long as it has the overall appearance of that. What happened first when ChatGPT became a thing, when 3.5 came out, was that I got a slew of essays from first years, not from the second and third years. This was really interesting. I had a conversation with my students in class, various courses that I taught, and the second and third years were very much, oh my God, no, it's terrible. They might have experimented with it and they might have tried to do something with it, and they found that all it did was give them rubbish. What I got from the first years, who were obviously kind of like, oh, I've got exams coming out of my ears, what they did was they would put a prompt in, and I would get these essays that were very weirdly word salad. Oh, the interconnectedness of all humanity. They didn't have any sources, any references, and potentially no bibliography at all, or they copied and pasted a bibliography from somewhere. Really kind of tedious, very easy to mark down. Didn't need to even say, oh, this is AI. I don't even need to sort of initiate any proceedings against that. It was very much this is just nothing. You haven't even completed the assignment. Now, I will be clear, cheating has always existed at the university level. Paper mills have been a thing for the longest time, paying usually a very precarious academic to do your work for you and then submit that has always been a thing. But it has made it easier, and it is compounding a pre-existing problem and potentially taking it to its breaking point. It is so vast. I got all of these papers. Not all of them were AI generated, but there were some, and I got to know ChatGPT's voice that was a very boring voice. It's very grammatically correct. It sounds churn. It just sounds like if you took all of humanity's writing ever and just spewed out the next most likely word. That is very much what it read like. And it didn't say anything at all. It's very easy to mark those papers down, not even thinking, oh, this must be AI generated, but just thinking this has no content in it. You haven't written me anything. You've just sent me some words. And obviously, we've had cheating in the past. I think the most bizarre example was someone who submitted a transcript of a YouTube video essay that was a bad YouTube video essay. I mean, come on, there are some amazing video essays on YouTube, and they picked a really bad one. Try harder. So I had that to start with. And then in the second and third years that this has been going on, as the designers behind these chatbots have tried to work to make their chatbots appear more academic, not do the job better, but appear more academic, is they will create references which are non-existent. They are not real references at all. I'm not going to use the word hallucinate. I have issues with the use of words that relate to human behavior with reference to chatbots because it is humanizing something that isn't human. The references don't exist. They are just what the chatbot, as it's producing words one after the other, it's what is the most expected thing at the end of a sentence. Things got a little bit tricky. Now, when you submit an essay in 2025, it comes through on a system that gives me a score of how similar it is to every other essay that database it has access to, every other academic paper. Now, I can't see essays that are submitted, but I can see where sentences have been reproduced. So I will be able to see anything on the course itself. I can actually see the papers themselves and compare them. I can compare them to articles. What I've noticed happening in the last couple of years is that you'll get sentences and whole paragraphs that have been taken wholesale from other articles. The wrong reference will be attached to them. The page numbers will be wrong. The name or the year of the author will also be incorrect. Now, this makes our lives so much harder because when we get that trippy feeling of, oh, I think what I'm reading is artificially generated, you then have to do a deep dive into literally every reference, every source. You have to go through the bibliography, you have to investigate page numbers. This takes hours, and it's hours for which I'm not paid. It takes away from the students who have actually submitted their own work. You are not submitting your own work if you've done this. You are spewing out words, and the consequences of doing that also have impacts, as we know, with the environment, with communities that are fighting against these massive data centers, and potentially with the bubble that half YouTube is talking about right now. But I will not go into detail with that. I'm going to try and stick very much to this, trying to stay focused. What we've had to do as academics is to try to unpick these pseudo-scholarly essays that are being submitted. And every year it gets a little bit harder to identify them. I now have to do an anti-AI spiel at the beginning of each year. This creates another problem, and it is beyond just grading papers. This is a problem that is born out of the fact that the university system in the UK is now heavily financed by international students. They pay very, very large amounts of money to come to the UK. At the same time, the UK's political system has become increasingly anti-international. And as a result of this, it's becoming increasingly difficult for international students to come to this country and study. The decline in the numbers of international students has meant that universities are now expanding their reach, and they're allowing students to come and study whose English is okay for doing a STEM subject, but when they choose to cross over and do a social sciences or a humanities subject, they struggle because they are presented with a new situation. Last year, I taught a number of seminars where I had a large number of international students who were entirely dependent on AI translation tools just to hear me and understand me in class. This creates a problem because I had European students who were bored out of their mind because I had to explain basic cultural concepts at the same time as I had my international students feeling unnerved and frustrated and frightened because they couldn't understand what was happening in class. And I understood this because whenever I asked them a question and tried to engage with them, I discovered that the AI translator that they were using was not accurately translating my words. Now, it could well be because I'm neurodivergent, and that means that I have communication differences and difficulties and deficits. So I often get distracted, I communicate in a different way, I ramble, hey, you're watching my video, so you can see how I talk. It means that it is sometimes hard to follow me, especially if English is your second or third language. And I will say this, I have immense respect for international students who come to this country and they want to study. I would love to see more international students come here. I think it's amazing. we benefit so much from having an international community in this country. But they need to be able to sit in a humanities class and contribute in order to benefit. They're also frightened because we have a clear anti-AI policy. And as we reiterate that they cannot use AI to write their essays for them in entirety, which is what they were expecting to be able to do, they come up to me at the end of class and say, but I need ChatGPT to write my essay for me. And it's like, you can't do that. I cannot give you special permission. I'm it is unfair and you are not going to get any benefit out of it. You don't get the benefit of the class. The only time that this has actually worked to my, to benefit was last year doing a seminar where we discussed the rise of English as the only language that's applicable to STEM disciplines. And my international students were able to inform and enlighten my European students on how difficult it is when English is your second or third language and you come to the UK and you have a completely different educational culture, for example. They were completely unused to stepping into a classroom where instead of just sitting silently and listening to the professor and taking notes and learning facts, they were expected to go and read and then come to class and contribute in a discussion. That was very new to them, that their views were being taken seriously, that they were being invited to contribute and have a discussion with other people. That was really different for them. That was increasingly difficult because, of course, they're using an AI tool which cannot accurately translate for them. So it was messy, but it was fascinating to have that. It really brought them to life. I think it was one of the best classes I've taught where international students were able to discuss their experiences and really have a very complicated discussion about what the issues are around language in STEM and their requirements to be researchers. I always look at my students and go, well, you could have a future as an amazing academic. I don't know. You may be here for 3 years and go away and do something completely different, but, awesome if you come here and stay forever. Now, the compounding problem is that it is very difficult to identify when something is written by AI, which means that students are being falsely accused of using AI. Me personally, I don't actually attempt to make that accusation. If something looks really, really bad, I will forward it. Otherwise, I mark based on content. And marking based on content means that anything written by AI is going to get marked down anyway because the content is always bad. You cannot pick out specific grammatical tics and say, this means it was written by AI. You can pry em dashes from my cold dead hands. Those are human things. This is because AI is built on human input. So anyone who tells you that you can spot something is AI because of em dashes, because of semicolons, because of colons, because of grammatical tics, no, that's just humans. That is just humans. You can't use that. You can look at the content and go, oh boy, yeah, weird, random nonsense. That's not true. It is frustrating to see that professors themselves are using AI. This doesn't help us at all. All of this is compounding a pre-existing problem and a set of pre-existing issues within academia that is taking us to absolute breaking point. Now, I have a second thing to talk about here, which is that AI is also having a really massive impact on the digital resources that we use as researchers. And this has a particular effect for me as a disabled autistic researcher who is working on material that I access via the internet. The rise of AI crawlers has made it increasingly difficult for museums and organisations to maintain their online databases. I am on a listserv for a national group of people who work in digital museum space. So they either maintain resources online, they maintain websites, or they are researchers looking at digital uses of technology and digital archives. These are invaluable resources. If you are a disabled academic or you're a chronically ill academic, the internet has absolutely revolutionized our ability to do research because you can do it in bed. And what I decided I would do is I would show you what that looked like, because I've currently I'm currently working on something. I'm hoping to put together a paper on this, actually. I've been working on this for a really long time. So we have this. Wait a second. Let's just put this over here so I can see that. This is P Royal Greek 4699. This is, in reality, this is a piece of papyrus that is about that big. It's about that big in reality. So let's sort of say that big. I can see based on my face. It is really small and it's held behind glass and it is kept in a special collections library. I happen to live in the same city as that library, but if I didn't, I would still be able to access this online. I can also look at this. I've got it magnified. I can see the text far more clearly and I'm able to kind of zoom in. So if I show you what we are able to do now, see, I can even look really close up. So let's look at that. That's Ablanatha. I am able to get in really close and see letters. That's A, alpha, beta, lambda, alpha. And that has radically transformed our ability to do research. Having AI crawlers, periodically they're able to get through Cloudflare services and they absolutely crash websites. So there's a constant fight going on right now in the museum space, particularly the digital museum space, where they're trying to keep these resources up because they're accessible to everybody. Anybody can have a look at this on the internet and dig in and explore. And I think that's an amazing thing. Being able to have that kind of resource. I mean, we talk about all of the issues with the internet, but being able to have a resource like this to look at a piece of papyrus from the 3rd century, Greco-Roman era. This is a particularly fascinating one. This is what we call an iatromagical amulet. It looks like it was potentially has early signs of Christian involvement as well as Greek influence and some Jewish influence, some Hebrew influence as well. So a really fascinating little text that has been understudied that I'm currently working on and I've written something on before for pieces coming out later this year, should you be interested. The presence of these AI crawlers is making it increasingly difficult for people who would not historically be able to accurately access these resources and make full use of them and contribute to scholarship. Those are disabled academics. They are chronically ill academics, academics who are not able to just get up in the morning and go out and do work, academics who are in completely different countries. So this is held in the UK. An academic who is based in a country of origin is still able to see this. And while that is not a solution for the massive plundering of artifacts that took place in the 18th and 19th centuries and 20th centuries in Egypt, it does still help to provide access to a whole range of people who otherwise would not be able to see it. And we're able to get up close to it. We're able to see it far more clearly than, the first person who worked on this, I think, is Hunter or Roberts. And they, in 1938, did not have the ability to look really up close at this and to see what it was and all the different facets to it. That's an amazing resource that is now being removed because websites keep going down when the web crawlers overtake the ability of the Cloudflare services and other organizations that are trying to prevent those bots getting in. That makes it even worse. That is just a little bit about the things that we lose when we don't have access to these services and the cost that I think is so far not been seen. But it is another aspect that is my job is absolutely being killed because if they've updated the bots, I'm not able to look at this. I've been lucky today, I've been able to look at it, and I've been lucky for the last few months that I've been able to look at it. But that can be taken away at any time. So that's that. Now, the final thing that I want to talk about is the rise of pseudoarchaeology and the use of AI to create images that are fake, that absolutely dominate the conversation. the work of Flint Dibble, Milo Rossi, and Stefan Milo in particular, they're the guys that I know of. I know that there are other creators in that space, but they are the most significant ones that I've seen. And to highlight that their work combating pseudoarchaeology has been absolutely instrumental, but we are fighting a losing battle when it is so easy to create fake content and then not inform accurately that this is the fake content because you want to push a narrative. Earlier this year, in March, a researcher decided to suggest, using an older paper, that there were potentially power plants under the pyramids of Giza. And when this went out and went viral, it prompted loads of people. We ended up with hundreds of thousands, millions of videos being produced showing fake content of researchers going underneath the pyramids and apparently showing that these things, these secret power plants. Now, I'm a Stargate SG-1 fan. I would really love to be Daniel Jackson. I think that would be so awesome. I love that one of the plot points of the first film was Daniel Jackson's inability to understand somebody because the language he understood was one that he had understood in writing but didn't know how it actually sounded. Wow, that's like my life. That was, just Stargate SG-1, Teal'c. Yeah, things are going to calm up on this video. I love that show, but it is fiction. It is a show. The lack of clarity around whether something is AI generated and fake, especially in pseudoarchaeology, because it is so easy to create this stuff and it is done for insidious means. The pseudoarchaeologists have all of the money and advantage being given shows. Graham Hancock, who is, in my opinion, selling a fake story. Graham Hancock has not provided adequate evidence to support his theories about an ancient super civilization. In my opinion, don't come for me. I am a tiny creator on YouTube. And he has had support from the BBC. I remember him having a BBC show in the 1990s, and now he has he's had this Netflix show. I believe it is coming back for a second series. Milo Rossi has done a deep dive. He did a 4-part deep dive on that. Stefan Milo, the other Milo, has done a piece on that. And we also have the work of Flint Dibble, ongoing, trying to fight to make sure that the truth is presented, which is far more fascinating. It's so much more interesting than the gobbledygook that gets put out on the Joe Rogan podcast. But it is getting increasingly difficult. And the fact that this is being done at the expense of communities who are having data centers built and have no access to good, clean water and have sounds constantly through the day and night, I understand that is a problem. I'm taking from the work of Paris Marx here, whose series Data Vampires podcast is extremely good and you should go and listen to it. The environmental cost is absolutely devastating. The community cost is devastating. The cost to people who have put in all of their hard work and effort and time to learn, that also is devastating. And it's at the expense of just creating like a 3-minute video of bunnies jumping on a trampoline or people going under the Giza pyramids. It is such a shame that we have reached this point. And that is essentially the 3 ways that AI has been killing my job, making it exceptionally difficult, making it difficult to work with students in an environment that is already extremely difficult. It is selling people on the idea that actually not putting in any effort at all is the outcome that you want. We are losing so much, and I don't think we even know how much we are giving up for the sake of allowing a very small number of people to make an obscene amount of money. I wish I had a more positive ending to this video. This is an extremely difficult time to be alive. I hope that this has done something to sort of shed light on what grading papers is like. the impact of AI on digital resources, especially for those of us who are disabled or chronically ill, who need to be able to access things easily, and we can't anymore. Otherwise, I'm sorry, I don't think this is a video that you can really enjoy. I hope this video is informative. I hope the little section with the Iatromagical amulet was interesting. And I hope that it encourages you not to use ChatGPT in your essays if you are submitting. I know that if you are a student of mine, or if you are a student and you're facing assignments at the same time as you are facing trying to earn money to live, and you're not even in the right city, I know all of that is incredibly stressful and high pressured right now. I really hope that you don't turn to ChatGPT. I would much rather you submitted your own thoughts, even if you struggle with them, even if you feel that they're not good enough. Having that opportunity to read what you think, even though it's hard and it's tiring for both of us, for all of us, we're all exhausted. I hope that you are able to put the effort in to learn, even though right now that effort is being so devalued over the production of cheap slop content. Finally, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Oh my God, that was hard work. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to finally do the thing. Thank you very much to my patrons. If you want to join my Patreon, I put out videos early each week. I am going to try and do more polls so you can decide what content you would like to see. I would also like to do an Ask Me Anything. If you are really interested, you want to do deep dives into how you get around your disability in the academic space, I saw that that was something people were really interested in when I asked my patrons what they wanted to see. If you want to know more about my research, you can look at my other videos on that. I've done 2 videos on ancient papyri that I work with, or you can listen to me rant about catabasis and the representation of chronic illness in fiction, in an attempt to skewer academia in that way. Otherwise, my thank you very much to my paid patrons. That is Karen Kunder, Kay Shannon, Reggie, Jane Kay, Jane Steele, Marley Marker, Jo Van Every, Rosie Griffith, and Jenny Ryan. If you would like to show me a little bit of support, you can sign up there. I try to put out additional resources. I write fantasy that is LGBTQ friendly and is also features lots and lots of chronically ill and disabled characters, because that's the world we live in right now. Otherwise, once again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next week for a look at hypernormalization and why everything feels awful right now, if that video itself was not a guide to why we feel awful. So I will see you next week.